Okay, so I like the lighting. We can begin. So, hi everyone who might see this video, and yeah, another video. Although the past videos that I've uploaded, I've already like privated them, so because I was too embarrassed of those videos. But today I feel I have an interesting topic to talk about. So I try to say things about my life, right? My situations, whatever is happening, and my take on those situations. And yesterday, I was just so I haven't been working, right? And I have a lot of time to rest and recover from all the times when from the previous time where all the stress, I'm just trying to relax right now. So it gives me a lot of time to ponder and think what is important in my life, and also what I want to do in future, and try to understand myself. So I yesterday I was just thinking, I've been trying to do these things where I want to understand what I really am. Of course, I can say, and I can abstractly say that I'm not this body, and I don't exist inside the body or whatever consciousness and things like that. But it's not experientially true. It's very hard to just experience that reality, right? And it's like a personal journey of your own. But besides that, you know I've always thought about how confusing people can be, right? And how mind plays tricks on you, and how mind is not in your control, right? So I came across this video, and credit to Pursuit of Wonder, that's the YouTube channel. And I saw this video where he says special minds, or I don't know, different kind of special minds, how different kind of minds think differently, right? And there is a this so there's 5 types of thinking in that video. So he says some people think in terms of like visual thinking, right? Before anything else, a picture pops up into their heads, right? And there are some people who only think in terms of words, like words, language, things like that. No images comes up in their heads. And there are people who react on emotions, right? They don't have a rational thing. They don't have this words coming into their heads. It's just emotions, right? And there's this so that would be emotional thinking. And then comes, I don't know, abstract thinking. Some people think abstractly, right? Who don't believe in whatever. And there's also internal monologue. I think it's the people who think in terms of words, right? Or there's like things happening inside them, like words, like there's this consciousness or this person which we think it's us, like there's someone constantly speaking, and just random thoughts, and you're just thinking about random things and just thinking them to yourself. You're not so I'm kind of that person, right? So I want to talk about that later. But there are people who only think in terms of visual basis, and there are people who only think in terms of sensory things, like they're very sensorily oriented, right? They want to be um, um, they're I would say those kind of people would be more extroverted people. Like they want some external stimulus to act out, right? Those kind of people can be very restless. They want to do something very physical. And the people who are very visual based, maybe they could be something like photographers, or they could be dancers or something like that, right? Someone who loves visuals, or like filmmakers, right? I am more of like an introspector. I think there's levels to it. Like, I love visual things also, and of course, to certain degree, I love sensory pleasures too, like sensory input, whatever that is. And but mostly, like the most amount of uh, thinking, in terms of like kind of thinking I do, is an introspectory thinking, or like in like there's this inner monologue which is constantly running in my head, right? And it does never really is like, it's, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, but it just limits me from actually doing something physically, right? So if if there's a thought that comes to my mind, let's say I feel like drawing, right? I'll think about it. I will, you know, think about, oh, if I do this, then this would happen, or if I go out to this place, oh no, that would happen. Instead of just going and experiencing that thing and then feeling those consequences, I'd rather make a mental interpretation of that thing already in my head and not do that thing, right? And like thinking about the thing rather than the doing the thing itself, right? That's what happens to me. So like what I realized, like it was such an interesting thing, right? If it felt like, you know, I would think that I'm the problem, right? I am the problem. That I don't know, like how are people able to do certain things, but I'm not able to do anything, right? That that's weird. And I mean, it could be an issue for someone else also, right? If someone is very extroverted, right, they would say like, why can't I just sit still, right? For me, I could just be at one place, right, just with my thoughts, right? But that, for someone, just being with their thoughts could be very difficult, right? And it's like varies from person to person. And someone who's a very visual person, they can't be, you know unpleasant looking environment. They want things to look nice, right? So I was thinking like that. So, everyone has this pros and cons to what their way of thinking is. But I believe, like, speaking for myself, uh, although this introspectory inner monologue thinking way of thinking is cool and all, but it just limits me from doing anything, right? If there's a thing, first I'll think about the consequences, self-doubt, consequences. This person would think of it this way, and I would be perceived in that way, so I wouldn't do this, that, blah, 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 instead of doing and suffering the consequences, right? So I was thinking, for me, as a person, I'm an artistic person, right? So these inner monologues, they tend to stop when I am doing some physical activity, right? Like, to a great extent. Like, let's say I'm working out, right? I'm going for a run, or I am drawing, right? I'm watching a video, or I'm watching a movie, right? At that time, those inner monologues go down drastically, because most of the time they're just useless thoughts, right? Most of the time, right? So, and plus, after this inner monologue thinking whatever. I'm an emotional thinker, right? Which is a, I believe it's a very deadly combination, right? First, you have this person who's always thinking, and at the same time, very emotional. And when this, like, there's this thought, oh no, this is a like a negative interpretation of certain thing. The negative emotions would, surge to that thing, and it would just keep becoming more negative, instead of like just thought being a thought. I attach a lot of emotions to that thought, so that's not the best thing. So just while making this video, I think I need to separate those things, right? So if I'm thinking about something, I don't necessarily have to involve my emotions into it, right? I think emotions, I need to research about why in certain situations using your emotions could be good, right? Why did emotions come? I think I should research on that and make a video on that. But for now, like I was saying, like, first of all, I think a lot, right? And on top of that, there's a lot of emotions, right? And it's a deadly combination. So I tend to think a lot and do very less. Make sense? So doing things for me, like, instead of thinking about drawing, I should just go and draw. Instead of thinking about singing, I should just go and sing. Instead of overthinking my decisions, I should just go and do that, right? And even if I don't do certain things, right, I would regret, or I would think over like, oh man, I didn't do this, I didn't do that, right? How fun was that? I should have done that, right? It just creates this issue, right? For some people, like, there. So I was also, when I heard about this inner monologue thing, and he was also saying that some people don't have an inner monologue, and I was like, what? Some people just don't have this inner voice? Like, that's crazy. And then I saw this girl, like an interview with this girl, and she was like, like, she doesn't think about, like, before speaking, right? And she has these checklists, she has these patterns of how things go, and she journals things, right? So she has a very different way of expressing herself. For me, all the expression is inside me, right? It doesn't go out. For her, it's just very extrovert. Like, she just do things to function and to rationalize what's happening to a certain degree. For me, all the rationalization is already happening inside, not effectively. So I need to fix that. I believe it's just an interesting observation that I made. Any other updates with my life? I think pretty much that's the only thing I wanted to make a video about. You can tell me if you find that interesting, because I really find this interesting. Like, it gives me an idea. Like, let's say, let's take someone else for an example. I'll try to understand someone else. So let's say someone is a visual language sensory ranger. I don't know. I don't know how to put like, I can see the consequences, right? So let's say someone is a very visual person. They can't. I would think they would not be able to stay in an environment where it's like too messy, right? They'll be like, these things don't look perfect, right? They are very visual people. They want things to be, I would imagine, things to look right, seem right, and for someone who is visual thinker, emotional thinker, and someone who is a very emotional thinker, I would think they would have I don't know, what could it be? I'm an emotional thinker. So for me, emotions matter to me a lot. So I have very strong morals. Yeah. So I feel like for someone who is like primarily emotional thinker, they would have very strong morals, right? Because for emotions, they affect us a lot, right? If you say something bad to me, right, it would affect me, right? But I would control and somehow rationalize that thought. But for me, at least I can rationalize those thoughts. So I would think the people who are very emotional, they would be very very empathetic, right? And it can be like people who the people can take advantage of those people, right? Because they're very emotional. Yeah. So I think those could be the consequences of being, or I would say, let's say someone who's a very sensory person, sensory thinker, right? Like they would want the things to smell nice. They would want the things like their clothes to fit right. They would want the people. They would be very hug like people. They would be very affectionate with their bodies, like very humming, very like when they hug, they would be very embracing, right? Maybe, maybe that's what I'm thinking. I'm not sure whether it's true. I would have to meet those more of those kind of people, maybe figure that out. Okay, so this was that. I hope I made some sort of sense, and I would love to give more thoughts about these kind of thinking or these mental mindsets, and just to be able to figure out our minds more, like because it's very easy to say this person just overthinks, right? But why does he overthink? There could be reasons, right? So yeah, let me know what do you think, if I do plan to make this public. But see you. It was great time talking. Bye.